Hi, welcome aboard. For the last 10 years since we started World of Boats, we've been using helicopters to shoot our aerial footage. And I'm sure you've appreciated just what a different dimension that gives to a television program of any kind. Once you get airborne and you can look down on whatever you're shooting, whether it's scenery or boats or cars or trains or whatever, it makes things look so much different and so much better. So helicopters are an extremely viable part of film production, and they're responsible for some of the best special effects we've seen on the screen in recent years. Now, as everybody who watches World of Boats regularly knows, I've been a fixed-wing pilot for over 30 years, and I've often been curious about how a helicopter differs to a fixed wing as far as flying is concerned. Now, Jeff McTaggart has been providing us with our helicopter services for virtually all of the 10 years of the run of World of Boats, and I had a talk to Jeffrey a little while ago and suggested that I might start to train on helicopters. Now, I did that after he'd established a training facility here at Carrara on the Gold Coast with these old Bell 47s, and I'm sure all of you recognise that this aircraft is virtually the same as the MASH helicopter. They're a marvellous old workhorse. They're used for mustering up in the Northern Territory. A huge number of jobs over the years have been done by 47s. In fact, some of the most difficult rescue missions in the world have been carried out by these piston-driven helicopters. So he's put a couple online as trainers, and I'm about to start learning to fly a helicopter. Now, he tells me that it's entirely different to flying a fixed wing, so I should forget all about all of that. I'm endeavouring to do that, and I'm really looking forward to getting airborne, and I'm going to take you via the camera with me and show you what it's like to learn to fly a helicopter. Let's go fly. You know, most people who fly light aircraft perpetrate the myth that they're very difficult vehicles to control. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. If you can drive a car, if you can handle a push bike or a motorcycle, your reflexes and your coordination are more than adequate to handle a light aircraft. The difficulty does come in when you fly cross country and when you look at aspects such as navigation and meteorology, which are outside the actual handling of the aircraft itself. Helicopters are a little different. In straight and level flight at cruise, the aircraft handles very much like a conventional one, a fixed wing aircraft. It's only when you slow down and get towards the hover and when you're taking off and landing that the aircraft is more demanding as far as controlling it is concerned. In fact, somebody once compared the flying of a helicopter to trying to balance on top of a beach ball while standing in the middle of a swimming pool. Now, the controls are similar again to a light aircraft. There are a couple more of them. They require more coordination. Let's have a look at the way in which that aspect of it works. Now, there are three basic controls that fly the helicopter. There is the collective pitch, which is that lever there, with which you effectively lift the helicopter off the ground. It's all the way down there. In order to take off, you pull that back, it increases the pitch of the helicopter blades and lifts it off the ground. Now, it also incorporates the throttle, which is like a motorbike throttle, but on your left hand. You can see it there. It's a twist grip throttle, which is loose all the time, so you're constantly giving the aircraft throttle inputs. The other primary control is the cyclic pitch, and it's that stick there. Now, if I push that forward, the helicopter will tuck its tail up in the air and move forward. If I pull it back, it'll tuck its nose in the air and move back, and if I go to the left, it'll move to the left. If I go to the right, it'll move to the right. The rudder pedals operate the tail rotor and actually point the helicopter in whatever direction you wish to head. Now, I've just stirred that cyclic stick around there like that. When you're actually airborne and flying, your maximum movements in any direction are no more than that. Now, they are absolute maximum inputs, because if you go any further, the helicopter is dynamically unstable. It will do things that you don't want it to do and give you a terrible fright, and that's most undesirable when you're learning to fly or flying a helicopter. So they are the maximum movements, and you'll have to coordinate your foot inputs to make the helicopter point in the right direction, your cyclic inputs and your collective inputs, so that you place the helicopter exactly where you wish it to be. Now, the other aspect of it that adds to the difficulty and the learning process in flying a helicopter is that the inputs on the cyclic stick don't happen immediately as far as the change in attitude of the aircraft is concerned. There is a 2 or 3 second lag before everything goes through the mechanical system and then gets an aerodynamic response before the aircraft actually responds to those cyclic inputs. And it's that aspect alone that makes learning to fly a helicopter a relatively difficult undertaking, and that difficulty is overcome by simply getting up hours. You get 20 or 30 hours up before you are completely at home and your reflexes have been trained to match the reactions of the aircraft to the various control inputs, and that's the most important aspect of it. Now we're going to go fly now, and we'll see just how well I can handle this very difficult machine. The Bell 47 is quite an interesting aeroplane. It was designed towards the end of the Second World War. It came into general availability around the world at the end of the 1940s and has been doing sterling service ever since. It has 260 horsepower in the form of a 6-cylinder horizontally opposed aircraft engine mounted vertically just behind the cabin. It has a lift capacity of around about 800 pounds and a range of around about 150 miles. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, these are the helicopters which featured so prominently in the MASH series, and their abilities in the Korean War particularly were well and truly examined by a range of pilots in a varying number of conditions. Now, all of those qualities make the aircraft ideal as a trainer. It's a little more stable than the smaller Robinson helicopter, which is now popular for training. So therefore it's a little easier to learn to fly on it. The learning curve is a little flatter, but a marvellous old aeroplane. Now, as I said, it's a lot different to flying a fixed-wing aircraft except when you're in cruise, and we'll be continuing with this series and looking at the aspects of learning to fly one of modern technology's most useful pieces of equipment. There can be no doubt that helicopters have revolutionised not so much transport, but they've certainly revolutionised people's ability to get into remote areas very, very rapidly, and of course their reputation and their record in search and rescue has been fabulous. Back after this break.